Hello and welcome to our Malt webinar. Before we begin and jump into things, it would be really cool to know where you're tuning in from today. So if you can share maybe a city or country or town or wherever you are right now, we'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Cologne, Berlin, France. Amazing. Really cool. Super international European today. Great. Nice to see you all here. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Rebecca. I'm a community developer with Malt. And my role essentially is engaging our freelance community through events, content, webinars, and partnerships. So anything that really can help bring a value to our freelance community and anything around freelancing. Hi from Munich. Munich, we have a lot of people from Munich. Very cool. I'm also sitting in Munich right now. I'll just do a really short Malt introduction to those of you who don't know who we are yet. Then we have the lovely Alex Wolf here today with us, who's going to bring a brand new perspective to creating your value proposition to us. Hello from France. I see a lovely baguette there as well. Love it. Clémence. And then at the end, we do have 15 minutes of Q&A. If you have any questions in the meantime, please pop them into the chat. I will keep an eye on that as well. You do also have a questions function at the bottom. And so if you want to collect any questions that you want to ask Alex or myself at the end, feel free to use that as well. So who is Malt? For those of you who don't know, Malt is a freelancer marketplace. We have around 450,000 freelancers who are currently signed up on Malt, around 50,000 plus clients. Malt has 112 million euros in financing from the investors below. And Malt has been around for about 9 years now. So it was founded originally in Paris 9 years ago. And at this point in time, we have offices in France, Germany, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, and most recently, the UK. As a freelancer, this is what your journey on Malt would look like. So you can create a freelancer profile for free. You can save time as we have a really smart administrative tool. Everything is integrated into one space, so there's no documents or papers flying around. Everything is located there, and you can save a lot of time that way. You can work with peace of mind. So all of your projects that are done over Malt are insured up to 20 million euros. And you can get paid in 48 to 72 hours as we pre-finance a lot of the projects. And if you have any other questions about the product itself or Malt, then please feel free to let me know later. I will share my email with you. What are the benefits as a freelancer on Malt? So we say community first because that's incredibly important to us. We have a high potential program for some of the top freelancers in certain job categories. We have a super Malter program for those who are using the product very frequently. Lots of resources and different content that you can watch online and on our YouTube link, which I can also share. We have live events and webinars. Personal contact. So we're a community team of 5 people right now and growing. Partner benefits. And what's been recently communicated is as of February 1st, there is no provision charge on the freelancer side. So Malt is free of charge to use for freelancers. Like I said before, we have more than 50,000 clients who are using Malt and trust in Malt, and you might recognize the one or other over here as well. And if you have any other questions, feedback, or anything you'd really like to see in terms of content for events on our pages or in webinars, or if you'd even like to host a webinar yourself, then feel free to reach out to me, rebecca.quinio@malt.com. Just one example, Alex is someone who I met at one of our live events in Berlin in November. And she reached out to me right after we met at the event and talked, and here we are already. So things can move quickly if you're motivated to do that. And we're always really open to hear what kind of expertise you have and would like to share. And now I'm going to hand it right over to you, Alex.
Hello, everyone. Does everybody hear me? Can you hear me well? Yeah. Okay, great. I'm super happy to be here at this live event of Malt. Thank you for the opportunity, Rebecca. Thanks for the introduction. However, I will introduce myself quickly too. There must be a presentation, but if not, it's not a big deal. I will present myself without it first. I'm Alex. I'm an innovation consultant and coach, and I grew up in Berlin. I also studied in Berlin, actually, at the Berlin School of Economics and Law, and did a double degree with Spain. I'll just give a few facts about me because it's maybe interesting for you to get to know me a bit better before I start talking about the value proposition while we're all here. Actually, I studied in Spain without knowing the language at first, and learned quickly and adapted quickly to learn Spanish and get my credits done, which was one of the more challenging and crazier times of my life. And now I'm finishing my master in European studies, and I would consider myself being a meta mind, like diving into the different aspects of sustainability and innovation and trying to really connect the dots and see the synergies between the different aspects of this, which initially made it very hard for me to understand what is the value I'm bringing here actually, and what is the main point I'm trying to make with my work, because there's so many fields of interest I'm covering. So this has been a big challenge. So I would say that this is why I'm here today. I'm trying to share my knowledge with you on value proposition and how to develop a sustainable value proposition for your business or your freelance career, because I had a big struggle with that. It was a big struggle for a long time, and I believe a lot of you will feel the same. What helped me is to get to know more about the method of design thinking, which then I also studied at the Hasso-Plattner Institute, the D School in Potsdam, which is a partner institute of Stanford, where it's originated from. So it's the OG institute basically in Germany for design thinking. And those methods really helped me to grasp the idea of a value proposition, or any other endeavor I'm actually on right now. Design thinking is a excellent tool for streamlining my confetti of thoughts, as I say, and help my scattered mind to really focus on what's important. So before we start and we dive into the topic of the value proposition and how to build it, I would like to ask you a few questions with a poll that Rebecca wanted to share with you, if that's possible.
I just shared it now, so should be able to start voting.
Exactly. So one question should be what industry you're working in. Second should be if you're already a freelancer, or you're thinking about becoming a freelancer, building a business, or you're maybe an established freelancer who is just interested about the topic. And then what you know about design thinking. I don't see it. Oh, there, I can see it. Okay.
So we have the one poll, and then you can share which industry you're working in the chat. So I'll just give people some time to answer the industry in the chat, and then we can ask the design thinking one right after.
Okay, so the majority of you is actually already freelancing for more than 2 years. It's very interesting. It maybe shows how important this topic is still after a couple of years of being photography, product design, health education, web design. So we have a big diversity of different industries as well, which is very exciting and interesting. Agile coach, service design, web developer. Cool. Some UX, UI designers, and some design thinking and business marketing consultants, I would assume, or people who work in this field at least. So it will be not a complete new topic to you, what we'll be talking about. However, I will give you a personal take on it, so maybe it will be interesting anyways.
Did you want to ask Alex the level of understanding of design thinking? Was that your last question?
Exactly. Just for me to know if to dive deeper on certain aspects of it or not, because I don't want to bore you, obviously. Yeah. Will you publish the poll about the design thinking, or is it like something we'll
just pop the question into the chat, and so feel free to answer that one.
Right. Who has heard of design thinking and or knows what it is the question. A rough understanding, no knowledge, read a book about it, heard of it, superficial awareness. Okay, so we're quite mixed. So I guess I'll just follow through with the information that I brought today, and you just pick what is important to you, and yeah, maybe just listen to it like a podcast in the background if you already heard about it. But potentially it's going to be interesting to hear my take on it and like what I took away. So this is the first slide, basically was talking about myself just beforehand. Yeah, just a short summary of what I said before. I'm an innovation consultant and coach, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so what are we going to be talking about today? First, let's dive a little bit into the topic of design thinking. What is it all about? I will give you a personal take on design thinking and how, yeah, I understand it, how I learned about it, and yeah, what the core of it is basically, which is the design thinking mindset, and we'll be talking about this later. And then sustainable business foundation. So to me, like my personal approach to building a sustainable business foundation and then the value proposition is to understand who you are. So to me, it starts with yourself. Like to me, it doesn't start with looking what Rika over there is doing and what kind of business she's building and then copy pasting. To me, something that is sustainable and is designed to live long and is future proof is coming within you to the outside world. And the question that you will ask yourself after you understood who you are in the context of your business or your freelance career is, for whom and how are you building this sustainable business? And if you answered those questions, and I will show you how I managed for myself to answer those questions, is how do you transfer this into a value proposition that will attract the person that you're trying to attract to be a client, and is yeah, fitting your values and like who you are and how you work. Maybe next slide. Yeah. So what is design thinking all about? Right. So to me personally, it is something that is connected with, yeah, like understanding really the human behind a challenge. If you talk about design thinking per se, it's a problem-solving approach that emphasizes with a user. So you're talking about a user specifically who will use a product or a service you're developing. It comes from product design and development, and the goal was initially to understand the needs and wants of a user. So you develop a creative solution, and then this solution has to meet the needs in an effective and efficient way. Like you look as well at cost efficiency and feasibility. And it originated from the field of design and specifically industrial design in the 60s and 50s. And maybe you heard about David Kelly from his firm IDEO, which like often say this quote, like we're at the right place at the right time, and could then make design thinking work for us and get this like, yeah, this is a part of our brand. Basically, we are the OG design thinking consultancy. Yeah, they managed to do that for sure. Well, yeah, to me personally, I think it's very important to see the human behind the challenge and not only speak about users, but like speak about ecosystems in which those people are embedded. So yeah, maybe you can go into the next slide. Right. So design thinking to me personally is about, yeah, about the mindset. And it's about not only finding solutions. You would say, okay, when you're like confronted with a problem or with a challenge, you would be like, okay, see, like we have to get our hands dirty and get into the problem and like find the solution right away and like jump into the solution finding. And we have to keep moving to really like generate solutions to the problems at hand. Yes, fair. But I think essentially at its core, design thinking is about not about like generating solutions. It's more about understanding the problems It's also about being brave enough to really dive into the problem and really like understand, like really try to understand truly what it's all about. Maybe you can go to the next slide. So yeah, so we have here the design thinking process. As you can see, you start with the emphasizing with the human behind the challenge. So you have a challenge at hand, and you really go into like talking to people and understanding what is it essentially all about. You try to understand like what are the feelings behind it as well, and what is this person actually experiencing being confronted with this problem. Once you opened up the space of really understanding what it's all about, you're defining it at its core. So you create a POV basically, where you talk about this person has this problem because and is feeling this while having it. And you understand as well what the context of it is. For this, you need to really interview people. You need to talk to people. You need to like get to really like get to know them, right? And after you defined it, you start ideating. And ideating means you don't think about what is feasible in the moment. You really open up the space into the infinite of possibilities, and you really try to get in and what is out there, like what can we create. Am I back?
You're back. Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So you ideate and you open up the space to let in the wildest ideas possible. Once you've done it, you can tune it down again, because you will build a prototype. And the prototype, in that sense, will be something that is very feasible and very small. It could even be a role play or something where two parties will present the idea in an interaction and ask then the person, the user in that sense, did you get what it is essentially all about in its core? And what I just described would be the testing. The testing would be a space where we like see if we emphasize right. Okay, next slide, please. So the main point about the design thinking process, in my opinion, is that it's not linear, but it's iterative, which means we always go back, or we could always go back to a different station where we were in the process. So for example, in the testing phase where we were testing our prototype, we discovered that the user doesn't understand what it is all about we're trying to demonstrate here. They would say, yeah, but that doesn't solve anything of what I was describing when you talked to me beforehand. Which means we have to go back to the emphasizing phase and be like, oh, maybe we didn't understand something right. Maybe we didn't get the point. We have to redefine our point of view. We have to redefine what the problem is essentially all about. Can you go to the next slide, please? So what we do here is we go step by step, right? But we have two different spaces. We have first the problem space and the solution space. And it works like we're opening up and then we're closing, and we're opening up and we're closing, and this is called synthesis. So when we emphasize and when we talk to people about their potential problems, or like the problem that are connected to the challenge, we really open up and like we really let in all the possibilities. It could be anything or everything. When we define, we synthesize again. So when we ideate, we open up again and let in all the potential ideas that come with the challenge that could potentially solve it. And when we prototype, we tune it down again. When we test, we open again, and so on. So it's this like process of synthesis is called. Next slide, please. Right. So I was talking before about the design thinking mindset and how I think it's the core of it all. So like we can have a fancy process and whatever, and we're going to use it. But the most important thing about design thinking is the mindset, in my opinion. So those are typically associated with those points. Empathy in the first hand. So we really try to understanding the needs and wants of our client by using design thinking methods. We are working with a lot of creativity. So we're coming up with new, innovative, and in my opinion, also bold ideas that people might also say, like, this will never work out, this will never be possible, but we're doing it anyways. And we're trying it out and we're testing it, right? We're like not doing an uneducated decision, but we're still being bold doing so. The iteration part is important that I mentioned before. We're refining the prototypes and cyclical processes. We're having iteration loops, it's called. We're collaborating together. So for example, I'm from a business background, I would work with a psychologist or anthropologist or another IT expert in one team if it's relevant to the challenge. It's super fruitful to have different perspectives from different people with different backgrounds to generate ideas and solve problems. So we're working collaboratively and in diverse teams. And we are flexible and agile, so we are open to change and new information, and we are open to experiment. So we're trying new ideas and we're being willing to fail as well. So we have always the bias to action. We're always here for it, but we also find to fail early and often and learn from our mistakes. Next slide, please. So how is this all relevant for our foundation of a successful and sustainable business? So how design thinking is coming into play, I will explain in the end of this presentation, but now let's go on a step-by-step process that really helped me to, sorry, I have a really dry throat, that helped me to get through the process of building a value proposition. So for me, step one is to start with myself, as I said before. So who am I? Step two would be to create your zone of genius, or to understand what your zone of genius is, because it's already within you. So what are you serving? Then the second point would be to identify your why, which will be the anchor that will help you to get through the process that is ongoing, obviously. To understand who you're serving, like who's your ideal person, who's your client, who's your target client. And then transfer this knowledge into a sustainable value proposition. Okay, next slide, please. So step one would be start with yourself. Next slide. Now, looking within, look within, don't get distracted by the outside noise. This is very important because that's what I thought was something that was holding me back a lot. I think if you concentrate on this intensely working on it, maybe delete social media and everything that comes with it and stop reading about the success stories of everybody else, because maybe you're not there yet, and that's completely fine. I think the first step is really to look within yourself and to understand what is going on here. So what is connected to myself, and how can I build this business and this freelance career starting with me personally. Next slide, please. So I brought some homework for you, maybe after the webinar. I don't know if you get the presentation. If not, maybe do a screenshot or something. I hope you can get it from Rebecca. Let's see. Well, how I did it. I will just present some approaches that I found very helpful. Is to put on a timer of 3 minutes and write one page on how I see myself as a person. Maybe in the context of my business, maybe just as a person who I am. When I write this down, it's just my perspective. I also get to ask 3 friends about 3 adjectives on my personality and find as many words or nouns I can associate with my findings. And then define 4 core values. For example, here you can see some examples. From me, people would describe me as caring, bold, risk-taking, a go-getter, and so on and so forth. And one noun that came to my mind right away was change. So I thought, oh, okay, so something I want to be associated with as a personal brand or as a brand is change. Next slide, please. So what do I stand for and thrive for then? My outcome was I stand for balance, but also for change, equality, freedom, inspiration, mindfulness, and sustainability. And having those nouns in mind, I could transfer them into my 4 core values that will be my anchor for building a sustainable value proposition, which is dynamic and energetic, mindful, resilience, and balance, intuitive and brave, and authentic and vulnerable. Next slide, please. Right. What are you serving? So this is basically your service, or the things you will be doing as a freelancer. Homework 2 would be for you to go back to the aspect of like, what is something that I'm really excited about? So what topic are you constantly willingly, and that's the keyword here, engaging with? Like, what are you diving deep into with excitement? So what you're reading books about, articles, what podcasts are you listening to? What are you talking about? And once you have that, and maybe like also like do this as a journal exercise, write it all down. Imagine a perfect work day. So what does it look like? Then think about this topic in connection with this work day. How is it connected to your field of expertise? Can you include this in your work day? How are you approaching the tasks, and how are you structuring your day while you're working on it? And what exactly is fun about it, right? And then when you have that, you can understand what role you take for your dream client when you're in your zone of genius, which this essentially is what I just described. You're in your perfect work day, you're on the flow, you're working with the topics you're deeply connecting with. What role are you taking in being in this zone? And I can give you an example from myself. Like, I know that I'm a business coach and consultant, but there's many coaches and consultants, especially in the business field out there. So I would ask myself, what makes me different? So what is something that I'm willingly diving deeper into? To me, like, I'm drawn to activism, intersectional feminism, cultural diversity, climate crisis, sustainability. Topics like emotional intelligence or brain leadership, that's something really like inspires me and like gets my fire burning. And gender equality and so on. And I learned for myself that methods of design thinking really helped me to connect those topics. And then I also understood that my role is to give structure, because that's something, hold on, can you go back for a second? Yeah, so my role is to give structure and impulses to impact entrepreneurs, because impact entrepreneurs are working essentially with those topics I'm willingly diving into all the time, but I can help them think beyond the status quo and transform their business into something more innovative or something that drives them more and so on. So I'm taking the specific role using methods of design thinking. So that's just an example on how I worked on my zone of genius to understand what it really is all about and how I can implement it in my day-to-day work. Okay, step 3 would be to identify your why. We heard it a lot of times. It's almost cliche, but it's so important, because you will lose yourself once in a while, and that's completely okay. It happens all the time. In the process of running from client to client, in the process of things getting messy and exhausting when you're doing your tax or whatever else mundane task you need to do, you need to remember why you're doing this and what are you doing this for. So next slide, please. The question would be, why are you showing up? And I know this for a fact that when we're getting in this day-to-day routine of being a freelancer, and sometimes you just want to give up and go back to your 9-to-5 potentially, you need to go back and ask yourself this question: why are you showing up? And when you did this in like the foundation, when you're like building the foundation for your business or freelance career, and you establish this and you wrote it down and you have it clear in your head or written down somewhere, you can like go back and read it and it will do wonders. So first question would be, what is that you truly want to bring to the world on a bigger scale? So this is your vision. Obviously, you're not going to accomplish it by yourself, but this is something you're working towards, for something you want to be part of. Then your personal why. So ask yourself the question, so why are you a freelancer, or you're starting off as one? Why are you building this business? What moment, like, is there like a moment in your head that you can think of where you made this decision for yourself and what triggered it? If you can find this moment in time, I think it will do wonders as well. And then your business why are you doing what you're doing, and what will impact, like how will it impact people, or how is it already impacting people? Next slide, please. So that's just like a short example of my business why that I wrote down for myself. To me, it's very important to support everybody who wants to make the world a better place. And a lot of people who want to do that suffer because they're not getting paid properly, or they're so consumed by this problem they want to try, like they want to solve, what they're like working on. And I really want to support them in this process. And I'm building Really Utopia, for example, as a brand that I'm building right now to inspire people who want to make the world a bit better place, to think beyond the status quo. So not like listen to these voices who say like it's too big, it's too far, you can't reach that. But unlearning the things they've been told and using the right methods and the right mindsets to be part of a movement of justice and transformation. Yeah, it's essentially about empowering people. So whenever I have a like tough day, I'm reading that and I'm thinking, I'm still back on track. It's like an anchor that keeps me grounded. Then the next step would be, who are you serving? Where we are going back to design thinking methods of personas. Maybe next slide. Right. So I really hope you get the presentation, because there you can like see an example of mine on the right side. If you zoom in, you can like see it more clear. But you create a persona to dive deep into your empathy journey with your target client. So you have the personal aspect of who is this person? Like, how do they live, work, play? What are their hobbies? What are their interests? Like, really get into the zone of trying to identify who you are targeting there. Like, who do you want to work with? Maybe even give them a name or a picture. And then that's the very important part, is establish 3 pain points, 3 doubts or anxiety points, and 3 wishes. Try to think about typical behaviors and their day-to-day life. So like, how would they behave in specific situation, knowing those 3 pain points and doubts? And then what is a challenge? So what's a typical situation for your person where you would help them? And the homework here would be to talk to 3 potential clients in a 30-minute interview and to listen deeply, because those points that you're establishing here are potentially don't want to say wrong, but they're assumptions, right? So that's things you think maybe people are feeling, or you already know it better because you're 2 years already freelancing and you know your client better than this. But if you're starting off, it's super helpful to talk to people and just get in the information if you know, so you know you're right on track. Okay, step 5. Next slide, please. So, and here you transfer like everything we just talked about and all the knowledge we have now about ourselves, our values, our why, our person, and also what we're actually serving into sustainable value proposition. Next slide, please. So let's see the bigger picture. Right. I hope, I probably don't think you can zoom in, but what it says here is on the right side, if you start with your person, you would just copy in the profile of your person into this template. Copy the 3 biggest pain points of your person into the template and 3 biggest wishes. So the pain points is where your client is right now, which is point A. So what's the status quo? What's the situation here? And how do you bring your person to situation B, point B, where the wishes lie? So one thing my coach told me the other day, which I think is mind-blowing, maybe super obvious, but to me it was mind-blowing, is that people don't buy services or product, people buy transformations. And if you can demonstrate with your value proposition how you bring this person from point A to point B, it's amazing, because this is what people are actually looking for. They want to see that you're able to support them in the process of getting from A to B. So, and then on the right side, you would have this typical situation, which is essentially the challenge you're talking about here. So what are the 2 biggest doubts as well that arise in those situations? A tip I have for you as well is to think about who you want to work with, actually, what kind of features this person needs to have. Do you want people who are engaged and are willing to, like, for example, if you're a coach or consultant, do you want to work with people who are doing their homework and like really trying to implement the learnings you're giving them? Are they trusting you, and so on? Those are things you also can like put into a perspective when you think about your person. And then you go from your person to your actual value proposition on the left, and there you have on the left the zone of genius. You can explain in 1 sentence what you're doing exactly, keeping in mind what I just told you before about the zone of genius. And then on the right, you would talk about how you bring value to this person. So how are you actually working? And there, like this adjectives we talked about were also important. Like you work, you're very honest in the way you work. You work with design thinking methods. You work with psychological tools, and so on and so forth. And on the bottom is, what is the transformation? So what is this transformation from A to B? Where is your target client or your person arriving then in the end? So you can like put it in one sentence, and everything we talked about before, and I'm aware it's a lot of work and it's a lot of understanding of yourself and what you're doing, and also maybe of your industry, but that's not as important in my opinion in that sense. You would have everything in one sentence. You would have it very precisely in one sentence, and people would really understand what you're offering to them and who are you talking to. So it would be inbound instead of you chasing someone to be your client. People would immediately understand if you're for them or not. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so but where's the link to design thinking yet? So we were talking about design thinking in the beginning. I said it's a tool where you can find out about your user, you can create solutions in diverse teams and so on and so forth. So yes, I think what you hear like on LinkedIn and so on, that people just need to keep moving and need to get going and whatever, and you need to do this and that and whatever, is important. Yes, we need to keep moving, but we also need to do our research. And I think with design thinking, we really need to understand that design thinking is helping us with the interviews, for example, and the structure it's giving us to understand our target client and understand what they really need from us. Then the mindset, how the mindset is playing into this whole exercise, is that you need to get your hands dirty and embrace a shitty first draft. But again, you're iterating, right? Like you're talking to people and you're finding out new things, and it's giving you some agency on getting going. With the design thinking mindset, you also learn to be okay with failure and be okay with like not getting your target client, not understanding your target client right from the start, or changing some things about your initial value proposition. You're okay with being wrong, and you're okay with change, right? So like we're all humans, our brains are not built to be okay with change. We like the comfort of the now and like the comfort of the stagnation. But yeah, like it helps you to to trick your brain into being okay with change. And yeah, also like with design thinking, we really get the step-by-step process, and we really get to bring our scattered minds on track into a frame which can be transformed into something that works for you specifically. This is just like an approach. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's just something I created that worked for myself. But you can take this and transform it into something that will work for you, will work for your industry, or work for your client, and so on. It's just a frame that you can work in, you can work with and move in this frame like as freely as you want. Okay, and then the last slide. Yeah. So what makes this value proposition sustainable? So in my opinion, it makes it sustainable because you really look within yourself. You're creating it outside of yourself, which means you can always go back and see how you are developing with time, and how your business is developing with time. When you're like building a team as well, later on, you can see how does it still reflect what my values I've built on essentially, and how does my vision change? How does my why change? So you always go back and you can iterate on it, yes, but essentially the foundation will carry you through, and it will give you some strength and some energy to keep going as well. And it's nothing built in stone, but it's something that you build on. So this is something that makes it very sustainable to me, because you're not trying to prove anything or to be anybody you're not, or to offer something, a service or a product that you're not standing behind 100%, or that you don't understand maybe even. So it's something that makes it really sustainable for me. Okay, and last slide is just right. So like, I just hope that I could like streamline the confetti of thoughts, even though my throat was really dry. You can get in touch with me under this email, alex@freelancer-Utopia.de. Yeah, like I know QR codes are super old, but I really like them because they're easy and uncomplicated. On the left, you can book a 15-minute call with me, and let's see if I can help you with something. You can always ask me if anything. Also, you can add me on LinkedIn and send me a message. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, I'm super happy to get in touch with you and talk about it and answer any questions. But we also have a Q&A now for the last 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm here to answer your questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. So if anyone still wants the link or QR code, let me know, and then I can pull it back up onto the screen. I just had to stop sharing my screen for now. We do have the Q&A, like we were saying, and I'm just scrolling through the chat to see if there are any questions that I missed. But you have the chance now to ask Alex any of your questions. I hope you took screenshots of the screens. If not, send me an email, which I'll share again with you, and I can share your slides if that's okay with you, Alex. So Genevieve has a question for you, Alex. Do you have a good reference books or links about the topic? And I think we lost Alex for a moment there, so I'll just give her a second to come back into the room. She's out again. I'll let you keep collecting your questions in the chat or in the questions function.
So I'm back.
I think there we go. There she is.
I'm back. Sorry.
So we have some questions for you already, Alex. No problem at all. So Geneviève, I think. Do you have a good reference books or links about the topic that you could share?
Actually no. I think it's just like common knowledge that I learned also from my coach, but like I really iterated it for myself. So like I really like everything that I talked about today were things I developed from like gut feeling and how it worked from my brain, because I believe I'm a little bit neurodivergent in that sense, and some approaches were too linear and straightforward for me. Like I needed some get arounds. So like basically what you saw was something I created working on my value proposition. I struggled. I struggled for a year, and this is what came out of it. And it was a process. So, but if I come up with something, I will share with Rebecca, and you can send her a mail, and maybe I will share on my LinkedIn something I will keep in mind. But yeah, to what I talked about, like what I talked about today, like I didn't read any specific books. Yeah. How often do you work? Reiterate on your. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry,
Go ahead.
Also. How often do you work? Yeah, quite sometimes. I did quite some iteration loops. I want to say, like for me, it was important to leave it untouched for a couple of weeks. So like for me, it was a process of a year, right? So like in the beginning, it was I was really like looking in the outside. So this is something that I also like tried to put my emphasis on today, that I was searching in the outside and it was just blocking me. It blocked me so much because I found that it didn't work for me. Like it didn't work for who I am. It didn't work for like what I want to achieve. It didn't work for my why. Like it's like other people's business. It's not mine, right? So, and that was something that was the first part of the process, where I had to reiterate on my value proposition because it was more based on other people than on myself. Thanks for sharing, Rebecca. And then like it was maybe every quarter in the first year. And I think when you're more established after a year, maybe like check back in once a year, or maybe like just check in when you feel like it's not serving you anymore. When you feel like, oh, like I'm not attracting the people I want to attract, like, or like I'm not getting clients at all, or I feel uncomfortable with my with the partners I'm working with, because like I feel like they're not really aligned with my values. But what are my values actually? Are they still the same? So when your gut is telling you something's off, maybe like check back in with your values and with your value proposition that is created from this. Can you have various value propositions? Hold on, was there anything before that? Yeah, no, LinkedIn. Okay, can you have various value proposition? If you have different services or products, yes, you should have different value propositions. For sure. Also, if you have different client segments, which I wouldn't recommend because the more focused you are, the better. But yeah, you can have different value propositions depending on what you're offering.
I'll just give everyone a few minutes. Any other questions for Alex? I've sent her LinkedIn in the chat, so I think if there are any outstanding questions, they can contact you over LinkedIn, right?
Of course.
Perfect. Then, oh, someone is still typing. So we won 2 more questions. One I can answer. I think, Alex, if you can answer the question from Didier.
X-Mind, no. Is it something I should know about? You can message me for the slides, actually. I can send them to you.
Yeah. I'll let Alex put her email in there for the slides, and I will remove my... So you can email Alex for the slides, and if you have anything related to Malt, then feel free to answer me. It's a mind map tool.
No, I'm using Maro.
Perfect. So, Didi, I think if you email Alex, she's put her email right there. Or I don't know if Alex, you want to write the email down.
I already have it. That's fine.
Perfect. Great. Okay. Yeah. Well, then I think we can wrap things up. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your insights and your wisdom with us today. It was really great having you on, very refreshing to see things from a different perspective, or just, also know that we're all human and it's perfectly normal to go back and rethink things and reset. So thanks for that refreshing input. And thank you to everyone else who was joining today. Have a wonderful evening. I hope that you could take something away from this, and you'll also all automatically become or receive the recording via email after the webinar is over, and we'll also put it onto our Malt YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you on here again soon. Bye-bye.